Ethiopia expresses readiness to find peaceful remedy to the conflict in the northern part of the country without preconditions. And activists vow to press ahead with digital diplomacy. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Shifarao Lakao. Thank you for being with us. Now, Ethiopia has expressed its readiness to find peaceful remedy to the conflict in the northern part of the country without preconditions. In a press briefing yesterday, Press Secretariat with the Prime Minister's office, Bilane Seyum, also pointed out that the TPLF's intransigent position and its maintenance of beating the war drums continues to be the chief stumbling block to the whole process. We have the following report.
It is to be recalled that Ethiopia declared an indefinite humanitarian truce as an effort to expedite the provision of much-needed humanitarian aid to people in need in the Tigray state on 24th March. It has also been exerting efforts to observe the said humanitarian truce and urging the TPLF to respond accordingly. Since then, life-saving humanitarian aid has been flowing into previously inaccessible areas in the state. The Ethiopian government has also taken confidence-building measures on several occasions to facilitate peace and to create an enabling environment.
To engage on the mechanisms of how.
In a press briefing today, Press Secretariat of Office of the Prime Minister announced that the government is committed to the peace process despite a lack of interest from the group in control of Tigray. Citing the three proposals deliberated and approved by the main peace committee, Bilane stated that the government remains committed to resolve the crisis in the northern part of the country without any preconditions.
The Peace Committee has yesterday unveiled a peace proposal that it has deliberated upon and adopted. You would note that in the statement that was released yesterday and the consultation that had been had with the key sections of the diplomatic community, the peace proposal has got a three-pronged proposal. Firstly, it proposes for peace talks to happen within the coming weeks towards an agreed ceasefire. Secondly, it proposes to undertake an in-depth political dialogue between the parties, leading towards a settlement. And thirdly, it proposes for any other pending issues to be addressed through a national dialogue.
Concerning humanitarian response updates, Bilane stated that much-needed humanitarian aid continues to be dispatched by government and humanitarian aid partners to those who desperately need it.
Moving on to humanitarian response updates, briefly, the data that I have from the National Disaster Risk Management Commission is for the period of July 20th, 2022 to August 9th, 2022. Thus far, for the Tigray region, above 29,000 or close to 30,000 metric tons of food, 31,940 metric tons of non-food items, 300 million birr, above 66,000 liters of fuel, 23.63 metric tons of medicine, 2,096 metric tons of fertilizer have reached Mekelle for distribution to beneficiaries throughout the region. For Amhara and Afar regions, the data that I have, again for the same period specified, July 20th to August 9th, 2022, includes 7,543 metric tons of food to Amhara region beneficiaries that has been dispatched, and close to 3,000 metric tons of food to Afar region beneficiaries that are still in need, which has also been dispatched.
Regarding the issue of restoration of disrupted services in Tigray, Bilane Seyum reiterated that the Ethiopian government makes it clear that security and administrative arrangements within the Tigray state must be put in place in order to facilitate technical repair work of said services.
The government has made it clear on several occasions to partners as well as to the public that the security and administrative arrangements within the Tigray region need to be cleared and put in place to facilitate technical repair work on the ground in Tigray region to restore these aid services. Hence, an operable and enabling environment is essential for such technical work to be undertaken on the ground. And at the moment, with a very vocally belligerent and illegally armed group operating at its own whim, and refusing to accept peace talks, the required enabling and secure environment is lacking for the restoration of services. If TPLF genuinely cares for the well-being of Ethiopians in the Tigray region, then they should be publicly asked by various international community actors to accept the peace agenda and sit for talks instead of looking for excuses to avoid these peace talks. The government of Ethiopia once again affirms it is ready at any time and at any place suggested to engage in peace talks under the auspices of the African Union-led process.
Bilene also briefed journalists regarding the overall peace and security situation in the country.
An overall national peace and security multifaceted efforts are being made by the security sector to address outstanding issues as a key priority of the government. We recall the National Security Council statement issued last week evaluating its operational activities nationwide. As it pertains to terrorist activities in the Oromia region, through the concerted efforts of 3 command posts that have been established and joint deployments of federal and regional security forces, key progress is reported to have been made on apprehending members of terrorist cells.
The press secretariat also briefed on the successful third filling of the GERD and power generation of its second turbine, the successful accomplishment and closing of the Green Legacy project, and the launching of Diredawa Free Trade Zone.
The House of Federation has given a green light for 6 zones and 5 waradas that were under the Southern Nations, Nationalities and Peoples region to hold a referendum and establish a new region if supported by the inhabitants. The other zones and a special warada, mainly Hadiya Zone, Halaba Zone, Kambata Tambaro Zone, Guragi Zone, Silte Zone and Yem Special Warada would remain in the Southern Nations, Nationalities and Peoples region if further decided. In its extraordinary meeting held yesterday, the House passed the decision with a majority vote in support of the formation of the new South Ethiopia region and the remaining of the stated zone and special warada with their former region, the Southern Nations, Nationalities and Peoples region. It also instructed the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia to conduct referendum within 3 months. Moving on, digital diplomacy is said to be a powerful weapon for Ethiopians in promoting the issues of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam to the entire communities of the world. Talking to EBC, Saleh Mohammed, an active engaged in mobilizing the Ethiopian community in South Africa, expressed delight with the third round filling of the GERD. Kasaun Chane has more on that.
Residing in South Africa, Saleh Mohammed has been playing a leading role in promoting the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam since its inception. Saleh said that in South Africa, the Ethiopian community has been effectively defending the misinformation being disseminated by several actors and some paid Egyptian journalists, politicians, and others by providing information that depicts the reality on the ground.
ደስታው ቃላት ያጥራል ደስታችን ለመግለጽ በጣም ደስ ይል ነበር
The filling of the dam has filled me with such pride, and I'm really enthusiastic. I and my fellow team members were all in South Africa back in 2011 during the launching. People of Ethiopian origins there, English, Arabic or other language speakers, congratulated each other and went wild with joy. The GERD politics is so complicated, and schemes by some Egyptians are still haunting us. But we need to brace up for more digital diplomacy.
ጋዜጠኞች ያለው ህዝብ የነበራቸው ያቀዱልን እንቅፋት
Ethiopians across South Africa, she said, are engaged in supporting their country in terms of economic development and digital public diplomacy. Saleh said the Ethiopian government should enhance digital public diplomacy to help resume the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam negotiations and achieve diplomatic victory.
Digital diplomacy በደንብ ትኩረት አልተሰጠውም, which is ጥቅም እንዳለውና
Digital diplomacy has not been given due attention, but I'd say if pursued well, it helps register remarkable victory.
ዲጂታል በጣም ጠቀሜታ ያለው ነገር ነው. በጣም ትኩረት ተሰጥቶ
Digital public diplomacy is very critical, and I'd like to call upon the government to scale up efforts in that regard.
አሁን አክቲቪቲ ቁጭ ብለህ ከምትሰራው እየበለጠ ነው.
Recalling a great victory of Adwa, she further accentuated that Ethiopians should stand in unison, drawing lessons from the forefathers.
የአድዋ ድል ሁለት ነገሮች እንደ ምሳሌ ልውሰድልህ. የአድዋ ድል ጫማ አልነበራቸውም, comfort life alnabarachom.
Adwa reminds us of the value of standing together and pressing ahead with the struggle. They never chose to sit back and enjoy their comfort zones. They mounted a formidable counterattack, trudging with bare feet. We need to replicate this to our situation now and get prepared to leave behind a legacy of resilience.
ከጎራዴና ከእግር መንገድ በፊት መንፈሳቸውን የተነሳው
The Ethiopian government and other states like the Diaspora Agency have been working to intensify digital public diplomacy.
Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Demeke Mekonnen met with Sarah Montgomery, UK Special Envoy for the Red Sea and Horn of Africa, in his office. He recalled the historic relations between the two countries and emphasized the importance of further solidifying ties between Ethiopia and the UK. He also valued the comprehensive and all-encompassing assistance provided to Ethiopia by the UK government. Demeke also spoke extensively about the state of affairs in the northern region of Ethiopia and the government's commitment to the current peace process being spearheaded by the AU. The special envoy stated that because this is her first trip to the Horn of Africa, she is eager to learn how she can support the peace process. The Ethiopian electric utility discloses that the GERD's successful power generation from its second turbine will go a long way to improve Ethiopia's power supply. Utility CEO Shifarao Telila told ETV that the GERD plays an important role in meeting and increasing renewable energy generation share towards sustainable development. Kasaun Chan has more on that.
The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is where Ethiopians from daily laborers to university professors have committed their hearts and souls. Here's thus an existential project for Ethiopia, a nation half of whose population still does not have access to electricity. Talking to ETV English, Chief Executive Officer of the Ethiopian Electric Utility, Shifarao Telila, disclosed that as a fast booming economy, Ethiopia needs to upgrade its electricity supply, adding that saturation of infrastructure is a heavy burden facing the nation.
Investment and expenditure, this is one challenge. The other is, as you can see, Ethiopia is a fast-growing country in Africa and even you can say in the world. So economic growth is booming in our country. To just feed this fast-growing economy, we need to also extend the electric infrastructure to those new business and investment areas. This is one challenge even in the existing network in Ethiopia. If you see the capital cities like Addis and the regional cities, the load growth is very fast in this country. So the existing infrastructure, distribution infrastructure and transmission infrastructure is getting saturated because of the high growth of the energy demand in these towns.
Despite being a nation of rich renewable energy resources, Ethiopia still finds itself facing financial problems due to currency shortage and low investment. As to him, Ethiopia's carbon access to electricity stands at 49%, meaning most of its rural community still lives in darkness. It is one of the least electrified nations in the world, he also said.
The current access rate of Ethiopia is about 49%. 49%? 49%. This is a national access rate, and the electrification of Ethiopia is from grid and some also from off-grid technologies.
Shifra underlined that completion the development of Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has paramount significance to attract investors to Ethiopia in various sectors.
Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is contributing a lot for our economic growth. As I tried to explain at the beginning, the main challenge for exploiting or utilizing our natural resources like water, hydro power, we need to have a capital for investment. We need to invest and upgrade the existing network so that we can accommodate new businesses and households.
Said to be Africa's biggest dam upon completion, the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam has a range of benefits for Nile Basin countries, including the promotion of access to reliable economic power supply, opportunities for better flood and erosion control, as well as the prospect of a new era of regional cooperation for mutual development.
Now, Indonesian ambassador to Ethiopia, Al-Busira Basnur, says the steadfast completion of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD is pivotal to realize Ethiopia's aspiration of becoming a manufacturing hub. In an exclusive interview with the Ethiopian news agency, the ambassador said that the GERD has multifaceted importance not only for Ethiopia but also for neighboring countries, adding that the GERD will generate 6,000 megawatts. This puts Ethiopia as a great country, rich of energy and the powerhouse of electricity. With that electricity, people in Ethiopia and people in neighboring countries will easily develop and increase their economy by creating home industries. The ambassador noted that Ethiopia and Ethiopians, as well as its neighbors, develop their economy, prosper, and improve the livelihood of each and everyone. Now, moving on, the National Coordinating Council for Prevention and Suppression of Trafficking in Person and Smuggling of Migrants held its annual summit in the presence of Foreign Affairs Minister Dammaqe Mekonnen. The Coordinating Council reviewed its performances during the concluded Ethiopian fiscal year. In its report, the Council announced that it has carried out a range of activities to rehabilitate citizens returned from Saudi Arabia. Some 10 makeshift camps have been arranged in Addis Ababa for the returnees, according to the Council. The Council stated that 65,446 Ethiopians have been repatriated from Saudi Arabia since March, of whom 62,978 have been reinstated to their families. Out of the total returnees, 3,119 are from families in Tigray and are currently receiving all the necessary support in camps, it is stated.
ይለዋወጣል እኛ ግን ጸንተን እንቆማለን ሀገር ማለት እኛ ነን
You are watching Addis News Hour.
Stories that happened regarding Ethiopia over the past 24 hours.
Okay, there have been just a handful of stories, but for the time being, I've just chosen two of them, which are for.
Most trending issues that have been making headlines in the past couple of days.
Yeah, I have assessed the media and I have seen tweets of the Prime Minister.
You're still watching at this news hour. Now, the rainy season is nearing to end and the Ethiopian New Year is right around the corner. The faithful of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church celebrate the unique outdoor religious and cultural festival called Buhe today. Buhe, also known as the Festival of Debre Tabor or the Festival of Transfiguration, is one of the ancient annual religious and cultural festivals. On this day, young boys go from door to door praising house occupants or owners, expecting the traditional ban known as mulmul or some money. Jerusalem Batsia goes through the rest of the story as follows.
Buhe is a holiday in Ethiopia held on August 19. On that day, the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo Church celebrates the transfiguration of Jesus on Mount Tabor.
They were Moses and Elijah who appeared in heavenly glory.
You will fulfill God's purpose.
This event has a special place and value for Ethiopians across the country, which is warmly commemorated based on the biblical story. On the eve of festival, the young boys making groups go from door to door in neighborhoods and perform Buhebelu song. The reason why the Hoya Hoye song is to epitomize shepherds who played at the foot of Mount Tabor, marking the day of Jesus' transfiguration. In return, mothers give them the mulmul they begged for the occasion. The next day, on Nahase 13, August 19, villagers gather in the evening to light a bonfire, Chibo. The symbolic meaning of lighting a bonfire in the evening of Buhe signifies the light of His glory that was seen on Mount Tabor. It's also to commemorate parents who lead Chibo to go in search of their children. In addition, Buhe is also a tradition where young people are reminded to value older generations. The songs are written and performed in praise of adults and elders. 4 weeks in August, Ethiopian boys dress up and perform songs from door to door in neighborhoods across the country. Hoya Hoye comprises several song parts. Each part consists of distinct melodic, rhythmic chords and lyrical messages. It's wholly arranged in call-response style. Thus, one of the boys serves as a lead singer and the rest of the group as accompanying chorus.
And now in business, the Ethio-Djibouti Railway has announced that it is ready to provide efficient and swift transport services to the Redawa Free Trade Zone, which was recently inaugurated by Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. The Redawa's proximity to the port of Djibouti will contribute greatly to the economy, and the fact that the Ethio-Djibouti railway line passes through the city makes it convenient for logistics services. Head of Ethio-Djibouti Railway Transport Stock Association, Abdi Zannaba, explained that arrangements have been made to provide efficient transportation services for import and export of goods to the manufacturers entering the free trade zone. Now moving to continental news, Mali has asked the UN Security Council for an emergency meeting to stop what it describes as acts of aggression by France in the form of violations of its sovereignty, support for jihadist groups and spying. In a letter to the head of the United Nations Security Council dated Monday, Mali's Foreign Affairs Minister said its airspace has been breached more than 50 times this year, mostly by French forces using drones, military helicopters and fighter jets. Shagamata has more on that from different sources.
Mali has accused France of violating its airspace and delivering weapons to armed groups, the latest in a barrage of accusations that have strained the relationship between the West African country and the former colonial power.
In the form of violations of its sovereignty, support for jihadist groups and espionage.
A letter serving this purpose was presented to journalists by the Malian Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Wednesday, addressed by the head of diplomacy, Abdoulaye Diop, to the Chinese presidency of the Security Council.
The Malian Ministry of Foreign Affairs distributed Wednesday to journalists a letter addressed by the head of diplomacy, Abdoulaye Diop.
Mali reserves the right to use self-defense if French actions persist in accordance with the UN Charter, the minister said.
Mali reserves the right to use self-defense if French actions persist in accordance with the UN Charter, the minister said.
Diop denounced in the letter the repetitive and frequent violations of the national airspace by French forces and the flights of French aircraft engaged in activities considered as espionage and attempts to intimidate. The junta in power in Mali since the August 2020 putsch has turned away from France and its allies to Russia. France has obviously never supported directly or indirectly these terrorist groups, which remain its designated enemies across the planet, said the French embassy in Mali on Twitter.
And finally, a quick recap of the top stories. Ethiopia expresses readiness to find peaceful remedy to the conflict in the northern part of the country without preconditions. And activists vow to press ahead with digital diplomacy. Well, with that, we come to the end of today's news. Thank you for watching us. Bye-bye.